There is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why I am on the trail of the Nephilim.
The Genesis 6 narrative states that the Nephilim are on the earth in those days and also afterwards. If that's true, can we find evidence that corroborates this? I'm L.A. Marzulli. Join me as we go on the trail of the Nephilim.
Very special presentation here today. It's from our new film, Out of Place Artifacts. I want to thank Josh Peck, who helped bring the film over the finish line. There's only so many hours of a day. That thing's been sitting for 2 years. So it's our first on the trail film in almost 2 years. And it's really cool. And I'm going to show you a very long clip of it about the out of place artifact in plain sight. And I'll get into that and so much more. But first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Have you ever wondered why skin might look leathery as we age? That's because our bodies slowly stop producing its most important nutrient for skin health. Folks, that's collagen. That's why tens of thousands are turning to this amazing substance to replenish this diminishing but vital protein. It uses the top 5 critically important types of collagen to support skin elasticity, hydration, and to bring back that youthful glow. Most importantly, you can save 53% for this month only. Simply go healthwithla.com. That's healthwithla.com. Or folks, please check the link down below and check it out. I take the collagen every single day. I put it in my coffee, no lumps. It's non-flavored. I don't taste it. Every single day it's in my coffee. So there you have it. That's healthwithla.com, healthwithla.com. There's an artifact. I'm so excited about this. There's an artifact that's in plain sight. Millions of people go by this thing and no one gives it a second thought. I'm talking about the Vatican obelisk. It came from Heliopolis during the time of Caesar Augustus. So you're looking at 3040 BC. Caligula then moved it. It sat there, and then it took 900 men, 300 horses, between 5 and 7 months, depending on what research you want to look at, to move this thing to its present resting place. Unbelievable. To show you how big it is. 300 tons, about 84 feet tall, made of red granite. And the question is, you can go online and you can see people with copper saws and sand in the crack, and they're doing this. I get that. You can cut granite with a copper saw if you use sand as an abrasive. But how do you make an obelisk? Why? Because an obelisk, as it goes up, the measurement's changing as it goes up. So we actually filmed in Vatican Square. It was an unbelievable coup. So Peggy and I are there about, 100 yards down from us. We're in the pillars. And behind me is the obelisk. And you'll see that in the clip. 60, 70, 80 yards away, there's another film crew, and that's drawing all the attention. So there we are. The audio is a little sketchy on it. Josh fixed that up. Thank you, Josh. But I think you'll find it interesting. Here's the clip, and of course, I'll weigh in on the end of it. Rome, Italy, a place of mystery where once the proud Caesars ruled the ancient world, where countless multitudes lived and died in an endless cycle that began thousands of years ago and continues unbroken into modernity. Rome, where Christianity flourished and spread to all parts of the world, where St. Peter's Basilica, the Sistine Chapel, and the secret Vatican Library are found behind the 40-foot walls that encircle the tiny nation-state known as Vatican City. It is here, in St. Peter's Square, that we examine our first out-of-place artifact. This object, as you will see, has been in plain sight for centuries. Yet most, if not all, who pass by it realize the significance of what they are seeing.
In 30 AD, Caesar Augustus had this large obelisk that you see behind me, shipped from Heliopolis, Egypt, to Rome. It was then set up. Fast forward, Caligula has it moved in this area here, within St. Peter's Square. The basilica is very close to this. It remained there until 1586. And you have to remember, where this obelisk was in the time of Caligula was where the circus was. Christians were martyred here, including Peter, who was crucified upside down, and Paul was later beheaded. So in 1586, Pope Sixtus V had the obelisk moved about 300 yards to where it now resides. It took 900 men and 140 horses, and it depends on what source you're reading, 5 months or 13 months to actually move it. It was erected. When they erected the obelisk, the Pope performed a rite of exorcism on it. He knew what he was looking at was something very ancient and perhaps had demonic influence. And so he did a rite of exorcism on it, blessed it, and now there's a cross on top of it. What's interesting is, and this is why we're here, that the obelisk is made of red granite, and it's roughly 3,000 years old, or perhaps even older. You cannot cut red granite in the Neolithic 3,000 years ago with copper chisels. It doesn't work. We are looking at a technology here that was brought to Rome from ancient Egypt that was carved perhaps by the Nephilim using technology that has since been completely lost to us. The technology I speak of is something that we read about in the book of Enoch, which talks about the angels giving technology to mankind. This is what is so fascinating about this site. The obelisk weighs about 300 tons. It's 82 feet high, and it remains here in St. Peter's Square. Hidden in plain sight, Nephilim architecture, fallen angel technology.
Well, let me back up here. Let's take we'll kind of give them all the benefit of the doubt. So we'll say that this obelisk was made in the Iron Age. So now they've got steel. They've got steel chisels. They can harden them. So we'll throw out the copper chisels, because I know that you can't create that with a copper chisel. But let's go to iron, and let's talk about the obelisk. So for every, I'm going to use the, instead of the metric system, I'll use inches. So for every 16th of an inch that we go up, or every 32nd of an inch, whatever increment you want to use, that obelisk is changing shape. So my question to you as a stonemason, and this thing is, I think, 86 feet tall. I mean, it's just like, so you've got this block of granite, and I get it. You've got chalk lines, and you can go, okay, but that's only one side. How would you lay out, how would you even begin to tackle something like that?
At the time, you just can't intuit it. You can be like Michelangelo, and you could see within the stone and be a sculptor. But when it comes to precision, it's mathematically driven, and it has to be done in a way that uses mathematical formulas and machines. I hate to say it, because I'm not disparaging the Egyptian civilization, because they did incredible things. The only question is, did the Egyptian indigenous people get their own history right, or did Western scholars get it right? Because they specifically state the time of the gods is much older. I will say, to your point, Iron Age, Bronze Age, Stone Age, it really doesn't matter to me. Like Youssef shows us at these different sites, he says, when you look under the microscope, the plane isn't broken in a lot of these carvings, meaning like you can't do it with this pounding and grinding and polishing. And I would love to see a study done on this. I'll probably have to do it myself, because I don't think the academic world would, but you can literally see that there isn't that interference in the stone, that there's almost some other technology at work. And a lot of people say, oh, where are all the tools? And if you look at the esoteric sources and in the textual indigenous sources, they talk about things like levitation and light and sound technology. And it just is what it is. You could dismiss it as a modern day scientist, but that is what is specifically noted. And it, just like in Cusco, in places we've been together, that you just can't dismiss that away. It almost makes sense to read it like that as a stonemason.
You mentioned Cusco and Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, and there's different sites. But we also see megalithic sites like in Israel. We'll be going there in October. And what's amazing about this, that they discovered this huge dolmen. I mean, it's the largest dolmen in the Levant. And the roof of that thing, I mean, it's just like, we're not talking a bunch of oxen pulling this thing up a sand ramp. I mean, so how is it done? And in Sacsayhuaman, when you look at those stones, which weigh 40, 50, 80, 100 tons, and they're all polygonal shapes, we're looking at a technology which has been lost to mankind.
There you go. I mean, that's just one out of place artifact hidden in plain sight. It's like right there. And by the way, as you heard in the clip, Pope Sixtus V did a rite of exorcism on this thing. He knew something was funky with it. Remember, it comes from Heliopolis. There were no hieroglyphs on it. He performs a rite of exorcism on this thing. And there it is, in the middle of the Vatican. What's it doing there? It's an out-of-place obelisk. It's an out-of-place artifact. Folks, it's there, and it's unbelievable. And we have a lot more in that film, Out of Place Artifacts. You can check it out by going to LAMarzulli.net. I will be speaking, not this Friday, but coming up at the Prophecy Watchers Conference. It's our last conference of the year, unless someone wants to invite me locally in the Southern California area. But that never happens, so I'm not worried about it. But we're in for the rest of the year. It's our last conference. Then right after, I speak on Friday twice, and then Saturday, we head to Atlanta, from Atlanta to Israel, and I'll see you, all of you who signed up for that tour. Can't wait to meet you folks, and it'll be a hoot. I'm not Mr. Know-It-All. Some of these sites I've never been to, and that's why we're going. But many of them I have. I'll be lecturing at all the sites, especially Mount Hermon, where we'll talk about Genesis 3:15. Anyway, hope to see you at the Prophecy Watchers Conference, and wow, what a year it's been. Thank you for your support of this channel. Thank you for your prayers. We've been under a lot of attack recently. Out of Place Artifacts is available, number 8 in the On the Trail of the Nephilim series, so you want to get that. Anyway, folks, remember, there is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. And that's why your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli, is on the trail of the Nephilim.